Billy Bob's space trucker Shapata Quinns. OC, sorry about a lack of a chapter yesterday. The flu just knocked me out, but I slept it off, and I'm intending on making it up to you all today. So here goes. Shapata Quinns.
Admiral Winters sipped at her cup of coffee as she stood on the bridge of the USS Enterprise. The largest, newest Freedom-class supercarrier built on the shipyards back home on Earth. The name amused her a little. American vessels had shared the name throughout history, and she knew that before humanity had expanded into the solar system, there had been a show about a spaceship with the same name. It was supposed to explore the galaxy in peace, or some such bullshit. Her Enterprise did not have any such space hippie mission. It was a ship of war. 300 Gladiator-class fighter bombers with 1,500 support crew, 20 Armadillo-class assault ships to deliver 2,000 angry US Space Marines upon a target, 24 Sucker Punch-class main armament railguns, 68 brass knuckle-class close-range Vulcan cannons, 200 Liberation-class 15 megaton yield nuclear missiles, 6,000 Peacekeeper-class conventional cruise missiles, 4 nuclear reactors, 3 movie theaters, 6 swimming pools, 1 full-grav sports facility, including football and baseball fields, the largest skip drive ever made, and her personal favorite, 1 catapult running the length of the ship. The Enterprise could fit an asteroid up to 100 feet wide into a special launch chamber and fling a rock at Xeno colony at around 85,000 miles an hour, absolutely guaranteeing they'd have a bad day. Flanking the Enterprise were her sister ships, the USS Constitution and the USS Second Amendment. They were earlier generation Freedom-class supercarriers, lacking the catapult, and in general, a little smaller but still heavy hitters. Then around the 3 supercarriers were 15 assassin-class hunter-killers that employed the finest in human-engineered stealth systems and skip drives. They'd bounce across the very fabric of reality and slam a nuclear torpedo into a Xeno capital ship and then bug out before anyone knew where they were. At the moment, the carrier group was sitting out in deep space. This was a tactic only humans ever employed. The sheer, vast nothingness that waited in deep space drove every other species insane pretty quickly. Humans just stared into the black and waited for a call to war. The skip drives they'd invented bent reality around the ship, another tactic that drove other species insane and would let them charge into a system free of the FTL gates, unleash hell, and skip out before any capital ship fleets could respond. The United Human Government denied any knowledge or involvement in the American supercarrier programs, but in reality, each one was a testament to human ingenuity and drive. The hulls might be assembled in the US, but materials and parts came from across all of human space. Not to mention all the freshly minted citizens who crewed the ship, having come from every corner of Earth and beyond. Humans had invented plausible deniability, and so as long as the UHG claimed the Americans were a subspecies who they had no control over, the neighboring Xeno nations were forced to fight an enemy with no extra solar colonies and the most heavily defended homeworld in known space. An enemy who waited in deep space just to fuck up someone's day. Admiral Winters smiled as she kept sipping her coffee, thinking about how much she loved her job. Then her reprieve was interrupted by her comm officer. "Sir, we've just got word. Intel reports a new Xeno species is ramping up for war with humanity as a whole. They've intercepted mobilization orders and fleet movements." Winters frowned for a moment.
Humanity as a whole? Not just us?
"That's correct, sir. They're known as the Crusticans. Apparently they serve as the Galactic Secret Police." That caught her interest.
We're playing with the big boys, are we? What happened?
Pissed them off, I guess, sir.
Ha ha ha.
Winters chuckled at that. Military strength estimates? The biggest fleet we've ever had to deal with. They're supposed to be excellent commandos as well. Winters just chuckled at that.
They've never met a pissed-off Marine with a jetpack. Very well. The battle horn has been sounded, and America ramps up for war. Find their deepest, most secure system. I want to jump as close as possible so when war is officially declared, we can come out swinging.
Yes, sir. Also direct orders from the President himself. He says this is all about some human who started defending some other Xeno's diplomat. We're supposed to send a contingent of commandos to escort him on his mission.
One American caused a galactic war? Outstanding. What's this fine American go by?
His name is Billy Bob Space Trucker. Emily had finally torn Billy Bob away from the slushies he'd been downing. Apparently, he missed the frozen sugar as much as he'd been missing real meat. They needed to go shopping for their new pet, which he had yet to name. The pair of them got odd looks from most of the Xenos around the station. Even among the strange and varied population of the galaxy, humans and Libertonians looked out of place. Emily guided them through the black market station to a vendor who dealt with rare and exotic creatures, hoping to find what they'd need. From the outside, the store looked far more secure than most of the ones around it. There were bars in the windows, and it used tinted glass to keep the interior out of sight from most shoppers. But when they stepped inside, Billy Bob chuckled softly. Why do all pet stores smell the same? There were cages along the walls, some aquariums, and those types of enclosures you used for lizards, but Billy Bob couldn't remember what they were called. Terrariums? Maybe. Most of the creatures seemed to be quiet, aside from the squawking and calling of a few here and there. Looking around, he saw a few creatures wearing exosuits that looked similar to the galactic police he'd run from on a number of occasions. But he wasn't sure if they were the same species or not. Emily walked toward the center to talk to the owner, while Billy Bob wandered around. He found a glass enclosure with a pink, furred monkey-looking thing with an extra arm coming out of its back. The space monkey looked over at him and stuck its tongue out, so Billy Bob returned the gesture. That seemed to get its attention. Then it made a face and Billy Bob imitated it. That seemed to piss it off. Emily approached the bankier who ran the shop and started to talk with him, unaware of what Billy Bob was doing.
Hello there. We recently came into the acquisition of a Verinox Plains Runner, and we're wondering if you might have some supplies you could sell us for it.
A Verinox Plains Runner? That's a carnivore, you know.
I'm aware. Me and my companion are omnivores, so it's not an issue.
Well, if you're okay with giving it meat on a regular basis, that's fine. What were you looking to buy?
Emily looked over her shoulder to ask Billy Bob and saw him making faces at a glass cage.
Billy Bob,
He looked over as something brown slapped against the glass, and he jerked back for a moment. Ha! Totally a space monkey. He left the raging monkey in a box and walked over. What's up?
what did you want to buy our space cat dog?
He frowned as he thought about how much he needed a better name for it. You know, like a bed and toys and stuff.
Toys? For a space cat dog?
The space goblin asked.
It's from a high-gravity planet, you know. It's very strong. I wouldn't advise trying to play with it.
Ah, don't worry about it, my fine space goblin. I'm from a super heavy gravity planet. The space goblin blinked.
What did you just call me? My translator must be glitching out.
Don't worry about it. So you got what we want? Oh, and like shampoo and stuff. I'm sure we got to give it a bath now and then.
You plan on washing a space cat dog by hand?
Yeah, sure, why not? Billy Bob smiled as the shop owner opened and closed his mouth a few times before shrugging. Clearly he was confused, but they were offering to buy from him, so he couldn't complain too much. He started to bring out items for them to look at when Billy Bob interrupted him. I should have thought of this back on the planet, but do you have any sticks for sale? Any what? Sticks, branches, something for me to throw so he can go pick it up and bring it back. Both Emily and the shop owner stared at him. What? Doesn't anyone do that? Play fetch with animals?
No, you're the only species I know that can accurately throw things.
Emily said as he shrugged. Whatever, let's see what you've got. They spent a good half hour selecting a variety of toys Billy Bob insisted on a large soft bed for when it got bigger. And despite all of Emily's insistence that it was a bad idea, Billy Bob bought a large bone-like chew toy he insisted he could throw as a stick. When it came time to pay, Billy Bob stared at the bill and then looked up at Emily with his best impression of big puppy eyes.
Why are you staring at me like that?
Come on, I can't pay for all this.
You should have thought about that before, Steer.
She stopped and looked at the shop owner.
Before picking up a new pet on that planet.
Oh, come on, you know I can't sell it. It's too awesome. Please, I'll pay you back.
When? Oh, you mean after I pay you?
Yeah, just garnish my wages.
My translator? Never mind, I think I get what you mean. Keeping one of those as a pet is going to be expensive, you know.
Oh, come on. Please, please see. Emily sighed and set her galactic trade cube on the counter. Yes! Thank you so much, Emily. You're the best. He leaned in to hug her, and she quickly gasped out as he picked her up in a bear hug.
Billy Bob, strength.
Was all she could wheeze out before he quickly stopped and set her down. Shit, sorry, you okay? The diplomat groaned a little as she shook her arms and let her wings flutter for a moment.
Yeah, but you nearly crushed me.
Sorry, cultural thing. I'll be careful in the future. Just high five? He lifted his hand and she slapped her palm against it like he'd shown her. Fuck yeah. We'll make an American out of you yet. Have this stuff delivered to my ship, he said to the space goblin who'd watched the entire exchange in silent confusion. Billy Bob waved a hand. Sure, sure. They walked out of the station and back into the flow of traffic. Xenos all around buying and selling, chatting, arguing, yelling advertisements. Billy Bob and Emily glanced around and he looked up at her. Where to from here, boss? She glanced down at her shorter companion and then back up and around. Shall we find a place to sit and eat for a while? Sounds like a plan. She guided them through the crowds of people to a restaurant that served meat. And after Billy Bob made a bit of a scene by picking up an ergonomic chair and snapping it in half so he could restack it into a comfortable human chair, they sat down. Billy Bob saw one of those familiar-looking space frogs walk up to take their order and asked for whatever they had with caffeine in it, then looked to Emily. How come I keep seeing those space frogs in restaurants?
The space frogs? Oh, they have strict cultural codes regarding hospitality. They won't poison you for one, and in general tend to run places like this.
Well, that's good to know. But the last few seemed disgusted when we ordered meat.
Ah, the ones on stations like this are from their low class. They have to scavenge more, and at times have to eat whatever they can get. I don't think they can handle meat, but they better understand the needs some species have than their upper class.
Ah, we're scavengers too. I mean, not anymore with Costco and shit, but we used to be. Had to work our way up the food chain. So we just ate all kinds of shit. How about you? She shook her head.
No, we were always at the top. We did have a common ancestor that was a pure carnivore, but they weren't as successful because it's harder to get nothing but meat. We could survive eating berries and plants. We always had our top picks, though. Most scavengers don't develop the intelligence your species has shown, though.
He chuckled at that. Well, Some of my species thinks it's a cosmic joke that we did survive this long. We have a horrible tendency to risk death out of curiosity, even on a large scale. Before we detonated our first atomic bomb, some scientists thought it would set our atmosphere on fire and kill off the whole planet, or something like that. We did it anyway. Then there was that big collider thing. What was it called? The Large Hairy Collider? I forget.
What did it do?
Oh, it was a particle accelerator. We'd slam atoms, or I guess particles, against each other as huge speeds to learn more about them. A few decades after we made it to our moon, we made this really big one that created little black holes. Some people thought they'd grow out of control and devour the planet. Emily was silent in shock, but with her mask on, he couldn't see her mouth hanging open.
You did what?
They were really small, and hey, obviously they didn't do that. We still exist.
Your species makes little black holes?
Yeah? Billy Bob glanced around, now a little nervous about the conversation. That isn't normal?
No. It's forbidden by the galactic government. It's insanely dangerous.
Well, messing around with that stuff is how we came up with the skip drives. I guess that's why no one else has them.
You mentioned those before. What are they?
Well, I'm not a scientist, but the basics is that they sort of fuck up reality and you bounce your ship across something else. Another dimension or whatever, and end up somewhere else. She blinked at that.
You alter reality. What's it like?
For the most part, it's black. But you see strange colors on the very edge of your vision. And you'd swear someone is whispering to you.
You subject yourself to that?
Yeah, you learn to tune it out after a jump or two. The biggest threat is boredom.
Let me get this straight. You've developed a device that alters the very fabric of reality somehow and makes you bounce across what you think is another dimension. And you see strange colors and hear something whisper to you. And you just tune it out, which means you're mostly bored.
Yeah. She shook her head slowly at that. Humans are insane. Or so perfectly sane they appear insane. He shrugged at that. Then he gasped and pointed over her shoulder out the window. That's a disco ball? She turned to look over her shoulder, seeing a shop across the way that had a spinning, sparkling orb inside.
Oh. That's a cultural dance center. They have artifacts from pre-space flight civilizations and their various dances. They hold competitions and stuff to see if people can imitate the barbaric dancing for prizes.
Billy Bob was out of his seat, rushing out of the restaurant.
Billy Bob, get back here. We need to order. Billy Bob.
Emily cursed under her breath and quickly waved to the waiter to explain before rushing after her companion. When she crossed the street, he was walking back out with a big smile. Got myself signed up for a tournament tonight. Guess who's got 2 thumbs and is an authority on barbaric pre-space flight dancing? He pointed at his face with his thumbs. This guy? And so ends another chapter in the adventures of Billy Bob's Space Trucker.